41 after the hour, right here on the Talk of Chicago. 1690 AM, WVON. You're listening to Real Talk, Real People. I'm your host, Chat Daddy. It's the Tuesday night edition of your favorite entertainment magazine show here at VON, where there's a lot of finger popping and toe tapping and all that good stuff, but that's okay. We're here to help you to relax, relate, and release whatever the stress and drama that holiday weekend. I know your family got on your nerves. They ate too much, took too many plates. Kids was bad, all of that. I know. That's why I ain't do none of that this weekend. I just relaxed. Want to send a very special shout out to everybody who I ran into on Saturday. The city of Chicago had a wonderful house music celebration down at Millennium Park. And it was Friday, Saturday, and I don't know if it was Sunday or not, but I got a chance to hang out on Saturday. Thank you to First Lady. First Lady, you're absolutely amazing. I had beautiful seats and got to hang out with all of my peeps, and it was really good to see everybody. I was trying to be incognito on Saturday, and everybody like, no, that's Chat Daddy. We know that's you. I was like, okay. So, all right. So, health awareness is what the month of May is all about. Tonight's show is dedicated to health and wellness. Our first guest was absolutely wonderful, Mr. Jeff Cade. He is the author of the book Battleground Cancer, Managing Your Mental, Physical, and Spiritual Well-Being for the Fight. He did a great job. Don't forget to go to his website, Jeff Cade 360, that's CADE 360, to grab his wonderful book about going through the battle of cancer. He wrote that from being a son who watched both his parents pass away, so that's really good. He's concerned about what we eat. Our next guest this evening is no stranger to Real Talk, Real People. She's been here with us many times before. She's usually here with us in March because March is Endometriosis Awareness Month. But I decided since it's Health Awareness Month and we really don't know that much about endometriosis, I thought I'd welcome her back to be a part of our health show this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome back to the show, Miss Michelle N. Johnson, licensed massage therapist, but most importantly, she's the author of the book Fighting Fiercely, Unveiling the Unknown About Endometriosis. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Miss Fabulous. She got on yellow tonight. Yellow. Hello, darling.
Hello, hello, hello.
How are you, my dear?
I am well. I'm always excited to be back here. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Whenever I invite you, one thing I will say is you do keep the subject of endometriosis in the forefront of everything that you do. And so many people are just not aware of what is endometriosis. What is it?
So, endometriosis, the best way that I can explain it is the best way that I can explain it is a little bit of biology 101. Is every month, when a woman is preparing to conceive, her body gets ready, and if the egg does not get fertilized, the lining of her uterus, it builds up, it breaks down, it sheds, and it leaves the body. When a woman has endometriosis, what happens is cells that are similar to that they mimic the behavior and the activity of the normal lining of the uterus. They're similar to those. They're found outside of the uterus in other areas of the body, but they don't know where they are, so they still build up, break down, shed, and bleed out. But because they are not in the uterus, that has no way of leaving the body. So all of that blood and cells and sloughed off material, it stays in the body, and sometimes it liquefies and binds to other organs, or it can create tumors of sorts, and it causes very painful menstrual cycles and inflammation throughout the areas of the body. It's a very painful and debilitating condition, but because it's on the inside and it's so tied to the monthly cycle, it's often dismissed, and that's one of the reasons why not a lot of people know about it. It's actually the third leading cause of infertility in women.
Really? And you know what I wanted to say, like even when I met you, had it been 3-4 years ago, I was like, wait a minute, I've heard of it, but I don't know much about it. And so is this a condition that has gotten more notoriety in later, in current years now? Because I don't remember anybody ever mentioning endometriosis many years ago.
Well, it has gained notoriety, but in my opinion, I say for not the best reasons, and I'll explain what I mean. You may have seen commercials in the last maybe year or
Yep,
two
there's
about
medicine
this
out now.
drug called Oralissa for the
Right.
treatment of endometriosis, and I'll talk about that drug a little bit later. But when that commercial started airing, maybe like last August, people started blowing up my phones and emails like,
Yeah.
they're talking about endometriosis on TV, and we started hearing radio spots about it. And so initially we were very excited in the community that we're hearing endometriosis being talked about more and we're seeing it. But unfortunately, those ads were the push toward that particular drug,
Right.
which we're now finding out is actually, it's nothing new. It's actually kind of a repurposing of a drug that's been used for many years with many unfortunate side effects.
I'm
It's
sure.
just now,
I'm sure.
as opposed to getting a monthly injection, it's kind of been repurposed in a pill form.
Mm-hmm.
So we're excited that the word is getting out, but we're not excited that rather than spend more time and money and research for a cure, we have yet another pill to take that
Mhm.
really doesn't do anything but mask the symptoms,
That's
but
all.
it doesn't do anything for the disease itself.
Wow. So now, when did you first find out that you had endometriosis?
I first found out in December of 2007,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually thought that I had the flu. I had been tired and weak and very lethargic. And going back even before that, as most young women experience, again, when we come into puberty and we start our menstrual cycles, a lot of the pain and things that we experience, we're told that it's normal and it's part of being a woman and that this is just something we basically have to buckle down and get used to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, long story short, I found myself in the emergency room thinking that I had the flu.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got there and tests were run and they started eliminating all these different things, I did not have the flu. I had endometriosis, and what was causing the fever and all of the other problems is that I had what they called an endometrioma, which is a endometrial tumor. And it was so large that it had began to impede the function of my kidneys and my bladder, and I got an infection. So I had to do this emergency diagnostic surgery to confirm that that's what I had, and then immediately went into address mode. How are we going to address this? So I found out I had stage 4 endometriosis, and the entire left side of my reproductive system had been eaten away by the disease. So they had to remove the tumor, but I also lost my left ovary and fallopian tube. It just was just destroyed by the disease.
So now here you are, young black woman, just as beautiful. Want to live your life, of course, wanting to be a mother or
Yeah.
wife or whatever the case may be. And now you've been told that, things are not going to be normal or the same. And so are you able to conceive a child or
Unfortunately, not.
Mm.
For me, beyond my diagnosis, I was also found out maybe a year or two later, I had a condition called adenomyosis. That is often called the sister disease or companion disease to endometriosis, and many women who have endo
and they would be named
often
like twins?
right
But
go
they
on
would.
to find they have adenomyosis. And basically, if you think about it like this, endometriosis occurs outside of the uterus, right? So you can have it in lung, kidneys, diaphragm. Adenomyosis is when the disease actually invades the body of the uterus. So it started eating my uterus up from the inside.
Oh.
And so, unfortunately for me, it's a progressive disease, and I fought for about 5 years to try to preserve my fertility. But for me, unfortunately, the disease got so bad that my only recourse was to have a hysterectomy. So, and let me be clear, a hysterectomy is not a cure for endometriosis because, again, that's outside of the uterus.
Mm.
But because I had developed adenomyosis, which happens in the uterus, removing the uterus was the way to cure that particular condition. So unfortunately for me, I did fall into the 40% of women who are rendered infertile by the disease, but 60% of women who have it do go on to conceive and have multiple pregnancies, although sometimes they do have complications along the way. They're a little more high risk and have to be a little bit more
Mhm.
careful.
Mhm.
But you can have this disease and go on to have children. I was just on the other side of that number there.
Okay, all right. When we come back from break, I'm sure this is taking a mental toll on you. And what we often talk about is, yeah, I had such and such, or I do have such and such, but people don't realize when you have such and such, mentally you're drained, financially you're drained. It takes a toll on the body, and that's something that we don't account for. You know what I'm saying? We
Absolutely.
just want God to heal us, but we also got other hot mess situations going on.
For sure.
All right, well, if you need me to be your baby daddy, I will.
Oh,
Okay,
thank
I
you.
will. I promise you that. I don't know if that was legally correct for me to say that or not, but I just, I love you. Yeah, but if you need a baby daddy, I got you.
I appreciate
I,
that.
I get us a nanny. I will.
I am
love
here for it.
I had to make you laugh, baby. You're listening to Real Talk, Real People, where I'm trying to be a baby daddy. We'll be back in just a moment. Good job. Yes.
Endometriosis. Yeah, we call it endo for short. Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, when he said you wrote your book about cancer, the thing about this disease is it mimics cancer in a lot of ways. And sometimes doctors will say it's much like cancer, but without the cure or without proper treatment for it. So more women have endometriosis than get diagnosed with breast cancer, but you hardly ever hear about endometriosis.
Wow,
Mhm.
that was a mouthful right there.
Oh,
And all the time about the twins. I mean, yeah.
yeah.
Adenomyosis, what's her name?
Adenomyosis.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
That stuff, it's horrible. Yeah.
Sometimes we hear that, especially with black folks, cancer runs in our DNA, part of our family tree. And that can be correct, but it also can be turned. Because the bacteria and viruses we're dealing with today are different from the strains we dealt with years ago. Antibiotic side is fine, but it still kills white blood cells, just like chemo, just like radiation. But it also depends upon the blood type and the stage. So with endo, also within the family tree line, that's also something that can be can be channeled down, if you
They
will.
say that you're 5 to 7 times more likely to have it if a direct female relative has it.
Mm.
In my family, I only know of one cousin who was diagnosed with it. But then part of the problem is it goes so long undiagnosed.
Undiagnosed.
Yeah.
So, because we all have cancer cells in our body. We all do, of course. I didn't find out until later. I didn't know that in high school. I didn't know that really in college, but we all have it. So, something has to ignite it.
Right.
Something has to ignite it.
For a lot of women, it's puberty. It's when they start the menstrual cycle.
That could be 11, 12,
9.
13, 14, 9.
The youngest documented case was 9.
Wow.
Yep.
Really?
I didn't know 9.
9.
I didn't even know a girl was doing it. 9.
I think 9 was the youngest, and I think like 81 was the oldest. Yeah.
There's just too much going on. There gotta be some better cures and something.
Mhm.
Because Big Pharma, they making all the money. You know that. Big Pharma.
Well, that's
Doesn't
why I
mean
was
our
telling
time
about
out.
this drug, this new drug that they have. It's nothing but repackaged Lupron, basically,
That's why
which is a
alternative
chemotherapy
holistic
drug for
support.
men
Mm.
with prostate cancer.
What's the name of that?
Lupron,
Lupron.
and that's what they've been giving us to treat this disease.
Yeah, yeah. Alternative holistic support, which I didn't get a chance to talk to him about. I mean, it's you gotta find that other route. It can't be Western medicine. I'm not giving up on that, but it's a band-aid approach
I
sometimes.
definitely use the combination.
55 after the hour, right here on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 AM, WVON. You're listening to Real Talk, Real People. I'm your host, Chat Daddy. It is the Tuesday night edition of your favorite entertainment magazine show here at VON. It is also Health Awareness Month as we wrap up the month of May. I thought tonight would be the most apropos evening to try to get as much health awareness in with you and your family as possible. Money means nothing if you do not have your health and if you do not have your mental wellness. And so tonight I have a wonderful group of guests who are coming in and going about, who are sharing with us how you can fight to have wonderful health in your life. Right now, our friend Michelle is here, and she is the author of a wonderful book, Fighting Fiercely, unveiling I'm looking upside down, the unknown causes about endometriosis, and that's
Mhm.
really important. So now, you said that young girls as young as 9
Mhm.
can be diagnosed with endometriosis.
Yes. So typically, symptoms start to present along with the menstrual cycle, with the onset of the menstrual cycle.
Wow.
And there are girls as young as 9 who start their menstrual cycle and from the onset begin to have symptoms. And so that's why early diagnosis is so important because, like myself, I started my cycle at 11, which is still fairly young. And again, the messages that we get from family, from doctors, cramping is normal. This is almost like your rite of passage into womanhood. So we are expected that these things are normal and these are things that we should deal with. But if your pain is causing you to not be able to do daily life activities,
Now, see, I
that's
know
not
quite
normal.
a few women who are like that when their monthly come along.
If you have to miss work or miss school or you can't do your daily, your functional activities where you're bedridden or you're having migraines, those things are not normal. And a lot of women don't know this, but you should not have pain with your monthly cycle. Discomfort, yes, but pain, no.
Okay, all right, very good. So now you went through a lot mentally with having something like this go on. Before we run out of time, share a little bit of that with us, and we come back to the top of the hour. We'll continue.
I did. When I got my surgery, I was under the impression that there was something in me that didn't belong, and they went in and they took it out, and I would go back to being normal and I would be fine. And what they didn't tell me was that number one, there is no cure yet for this disease, and that there would be symptoms, after the fact. I still had effects of medications that I was dealing with. My hair had fallen out. I gained a lot of weight. There was just mood swings and hormonal changes that I did not know to expect, and I was not prepared for them. And I did find myself in a very, very deep state of depression, actually very suicidal,
Oh my
to
God.
the point where I actually tried, to commit suicide, and I found myself in therapy. And sadly, the numbers of women committing suicide from this disease is steadily climbing, unfortunately. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they say the disease won't kill you, like the pathology of the disease won't kill you, but the emotional effects, the mental effects, like you said, the financial effects. This disease can be very isolating for
Mm-hmm.
people who don't understand it, and you find yourself alone and you just become overwhelmed and overburdened. And I know for me, I didn't really want to take my life,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted the pain to stop.
When we come back at the top of the hour, we're going to continue our conversation. We've heard this story before. So much pain that you don't know what to do. You just want to end your life. That's not what it's all about. It's all about having that testimony of how God spared you and was allowing you to yet be able to tell your journey, your testimony, all that. That's what that's about. We'll be back at the top of the hour. I love you guys. Don't go anywhere.
Wow.
That's what we do every night around here.
Real talk right there.
Mm-hmm. Every night. That's what we do. Hey.
So are there other, besides the big pharma drugs and what they give us, sometimes this band-aid approach, is there
Severe
other,
weather, no
is there another
disaster
holistic
relief.
approach?
I'm Ann Case.
Oh
Like,
yeah, most
Communities near
women
Tulsa,
do
Oklahoma
a
are bracing for
combination of
potentially
both.
record-breaking flooding.
I have
Correspondent Ed
done
Lavandera.
Emergency officials
CBD
going around
oil.
these
Yeah.
neighborhoods
I've
urging
done
people to
pelvic
evacuate, be
floor
ready to
therapy,
move at a
physical
moment's
therapy.
notice.
A lot of
But
women
it
do
is a stressful
acupuncture
situation for
and
many of the residents.
herbal,
We've been talking to you over the last couple
herbal
of days who
medicine,
say
herbal
it's
tea.
almost like a helpless
Black
feeling
tea.
just
I
standing
took a
there on
lot
the
of,
water's
I
edge.
did
And really
hibiscus
there's
tea,
nothing you can do except watch the water
roasted
hopefully go down
dandelion
very
tea,
quickly.
Plus,
sour
the
sop
National Weather
tea.
Service is looking at more than 4
I
dozen
did
tornadoes that
milk
touched down
sticks
last
over
night
there, like
across 8
different herbs.
states
But
from Idaho
thankfully,
to Ohio.
I had a doctor, even
House
though he's
Republicans
Western
have once again
medicine,
blocked passage
he
of a
was
disaster
open
relief measure.
Yeah.
to
Washington correspondent
alternative
Jared Bodlander.
Republican
practices
Congressman
and
Thomas
support.
Massie of
But a lot of that I
Kentucky
had to look
objected
for
to
on my own.
Democrats'
And
efforts
through support community. You know what I mean?
prescribe that.
And a lot of doctors, and of course now that there's medical marijuana, there's cannabis,
Right.
but for us in Illinois, number one, medical marijuana is legal here, but endometriosis is not a covered condition. It is in other states.
Texas Elections Chief David
It's
Whitley,
not
who
here.
questioned the
But
U.S.
CBD
citizenship
oil
of
was
nearly
very
100,000 voters,
So
For
has
me.
stepped down.
it was Secretary of State
No, I will both. I either had topical preparations, but I also took oil that I took internally. And I found that
No vape.
I don't smoke, I have asthma, so I didn't, there are a lot of women who vape. I just don't. I take the liquids and the topical and the edibles.
Do they help you?
They did, but you have to be, watch your liver numbers with it, because
On
there
Wall
are some
Street, the Dow
studies that
Jones
show it
Industrial
can
Average
elevate,
fell
and during that
238
time
points.
for me,
The S&P 500 dropped by 24.
my numbers
The
elevated
Nasdaq
a
also
little
off by
bit
30
with it,
points.
so it's
I'm
still
Ann
medicine. And that's the thing, holistic medicine is still medicine. So you still have got to, you know, watch for those contraindications to make sure it's not interfering with other stuff. But I found it to be very helpful for me.
Edibles
That
have
may not
been,
be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed rate mortgage is 4.375%. APR 4.65%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com. Rate subject to change. Pay 2 months records be received. Discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Closing licenses in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
her doctor has to be Asian, was open to different things.
Mhm.
And edibles was one of them.
Yeah.
The highly anticipated celebrity play Miss
It
Black
helped her a
for
lot.
President hits the
Yeah,
stage
I
May
hope they
19th
make
at
it legal
Chicago's legendary
in
theater
Chicago, or either.
Illinois don't get paid.
Meet America's
Because medicinally
first
it's fine.
drag queen
In
presidential
28 states it's
candidate,
fine
Miss
medicinally.
Joan Jett
Medicinally.
Black, as she
And
announces her
other
bid
states
to
are
run for
medicinal and
president of the
recreational.
United
Yeah.
Of course, like
Set in
Colorado,
Chicago in
stuff like that,
1992,
California.
during the height of the AIDS crisis,
But
Joan
it
had
does
an
have certain
urgent
properties
agenda
that help
and
you.
set off on an
Absolutely, it does.
exhilarating
Reduce her
and
anxiety,
dangerous journey to
it
drag
reduces her
queen
pain, it
politics
increases her
out of the
appetite because
closet
you're going
and
through
into the
chemo.
future.
Depression.
Such as dry and depressed.
Music and
So you gotta eat,
Miss
right?
Black is part
So it's just-
campaign rally,
yeah.
part
I remember
nightclub
she was saying she
performance,
increased
part
her-
confessional,
her
and
B1,
all
B2,
parts. Miss Black for President opens
DK,
May 19th at the Steppenwolf Theater, 1516 Boston. Get your tickets today. Visit WVON.com and click on the
Hey
Miss
guys,
Black
hope you
for
are
President
enjoying the show.
tab.
We'll be
If the
back
next
in a
time
couple
show
minutes
queen,
going live. Hope you guys are enjoying the conversation. But yeah, I was blessed. Well, I had to fire about 5 doctors before I found my doctor too. And then every OB/GYN is not a endometriosis specialist, and that's part of the problem. That the majority of these doctors treating this disease are not trained, which is why they push the drugs, because they don't know how to properly do surgery for it, you know? Yeah.
I don't know. I got too many people. Even my new agent is mad because I can't get him to hold on.
You gotta send me
Hey
Send
you
me-
guys,
okay,
so if
wait.
you have any
So how do
questions,
I
type them in there at the bottom, and if we have time, I'll see if we can get to some of them on air. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're back. In just a second, we'll be back on air. So I am here at WVON AM 1390 Chicago, talking endometriosis with Art Chat Daddy Sims. Hope you guys have been enjoying the conversation so far. May this month is Health Awareness Month, so we're rounding out talking about endometriosis awareness. So I hope you guys are enjoying the conversation, and we're taking it in a little bit of a different direction tonight, talking about mental, emotional, and financial effects on endometriosis. So we're talking not so much about the physical stuff, which is what we generally talk about, but I want to talk tonight about some of the
Maurice, for all of y'all.
mental effects
All of
and
y'all went to
emotional
school
effects and
together.
some of the symptoms that a lot of women suffer that aren't often talked about. So that's what we're talking about today. Hey Bet, hey Samantha, hey Shani. Coming back.
May is Health Awareness Month.
Oh, your wife
If
is
you're
so
flu
beautiful.
Or maybe not. They're still running commercials. Hey, Shani, thank you guys so much for tuning in and checking us out. Thank you, Tasha, so much. Thank you so much. Hopefully this broadcast, being national, will reach a wider audience. And so,
I have not. I heard it's amazing.
hopefully, you know,
next Saturday.
it'll, you know, reach a lot more people, and people will be able to tune in and look this up in the archives and get this great information. So I keep diverting back because I don't know when we're gonna come out of the commercial break, and I want to be ready. So, but yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Type them in at the bottom there. Anything you guys want to know about endometriosis, anything you want me to talk about on air. Hey, Samantha, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. So yeah, while we're waiting, also, if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, go and subscribe. I'm going to be doing a really cool series that I'm going to be starting there really soon, so you guys don't want to miss that. And I'm going to talk a little bit later on air about some of the cool stuff that I have coming up as well. So don't go anywhere.
Here we go.
You want to stay tuned.
Ready?
All right.
8:08 p.m. right here on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 AM, WVON. You're listening to Real Talk, Real People. I'm your host, Chad Daddy. It's the Tuesday night edition of your favorite entertainment magazine show here at VON. Yep, we're an entertainment show. Why? We want to make you laugh, have a great time, relax, you know, do all the things that you need to do after a long and stressful holiday weekend. Hopefully some of you got some rest, and all of that rain we had yesterday, some of y'all houses should be really clean. I know I got some things cleaned in my house yesterday, so yeah, your house should be just spotless, you know what I'm saying? Because yesterday was that type of day, all right? So tonight is all about health awareness here at WVON. We've been celebrating Health Awareness Month in a big way. And so tonight we've heard about a young man who lost both of his parents to a battle with cancer, and he's written a book to just help encourage, inspire, and motivate people who may be going through it, or you might be a caregiver. Right now, we're having a very interesting conversation about endometriosis, and then two of our favorite doctors will be joining us in just a little bit to have a conversation with us about May being, what is May? I forgot again. Let me see. May is Global Employee Health and Fitness Month.
Okay.
Want to remind everybody to tune in to the what's tomorrow? Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Wednesday night edition. I had to think there for a minute. 2 days off, you know how I get. Wednesday night edition of Real Talk, Real People. May is National Mobility Awareness Month. So tomorrow night, I'm going to introduce you to a gentleman whose friend literally carried him on their backs for a trip of a lifetime. He is in a wheelchair. They got to the Atlanta airport, and his friend said, leave that wheelchair, and we're going to carry you on our backs all over Europe. And so we'll meet him tomorrow night. I'm honoring him with it being National Mobility Awareness Month. So we'll meet Mr. Kevin Chandler, and I'm excited about meeting him tomorrow night and talking about that. Do you have friends that really would go that far for you? He cannot, because of a muscular disease, he can only be in a wheelchair. And so his friends decided at the Atlanta airport that we're not taking that wheelchair, we're going to carry you around on our backs. And that's what they did, took him all over Europe. Isn't that beautiful? That's a blessing right there. And then we're also going to have a very special guest co-host tomorrow night. Mr. Jacob Schultz will be here with us. He's a millennial. He is a huge fan of WVON. At the age of 10, he used to call the Purvis Fan Show and talk to the big man. And so he'll be here as our very special guest co-host tomorrow night. And so the millennial is now in the HR business. And so he's going to talk to us about what does it take to get a job in this day and age. A lot of us old folks want a job and don't know what to do. And so this millennial is going to tell us the hottest new trends of trying to get a job. There are a lot of us a little too that B word to be able to get a job in this day and age. I ain't taking this. You ain't gonna talk to me no any old kind of way. So yes, all right. So we're back with our wonderful guest, Michelle, who has written a great book about endometriosis. Michelle N. Johnson, licensed massage. What did I call you? Massage. You a massage. You a massage at this point. You see, I'm still resting from the vacation. A licensed massage therapist, not a massage. Y'all, some of y'all want a massage.
Right.
You can't get one. She's also the author of the book Fighting Fiercely, Unveiling the Unknown about Endometriosis. So now, before we went to break, you were just saying, this almost brought you to the point of suicide. I get it, I understand, and I'm sure a lot of people who listen to this show understand as well, too. Where are you now with everything?
Right now, I am back in therapy again because, as we talked about earlier, I did have to, unfortunately, against every, remedy that I tried, every fight that I put up, I did have to have a hysterectomy last May. And so I'm just now a year out, just a year and a couple of weeks out from that. And what I realized is that during that time, I was so focused on trying to heal physically. I was just working on the outside and trying to get myself together physically, that I never allowed myself to grieve. Because when, like you talked about earlier, when you do want to be a mother, and I very much did and still do want to be a mother, and when that is taken away from you, not from your own volition, not by any choice of your own, that is a loss. And I didn't take the time to grieve that properly, and I just found myself one day, without even thinking about it, for a routine checkup with my doctor. And they come in, they're like, "Hey, Ms. Johnson, how are you? How is everything?" And I just broke down. And she's just like, "How are you? Is everything good?" I'm like, "No, everything is not good." And I just let it rip and realized I had been holding this in for almost a year. And she just let me go at it for about 30 minutes, just crying and blabbering and letting it all out. And it was at that point I said, I have to, call up my therapist and revisit that issue, because it is a grieving, it is a loss. And when Mother's Day comes around, and birthdays and proms and pregnancy announcements and things like that, you are happy for your friends and family, but it highlights that loss that you have for yourself. And I realized that I had not dealt with that on a visceral level.
That's right. That's right. So now, I'm so glad that you've gotten back into therapy. I'm so glad, you've always embraced this situation with such grace.
Thank you.
Just amazing grace. Where are you right now spiritually in your place in life? I know you're back seeing your therapist. Are you still very much angry at yourself, or have you let go and pretty much let God?
Yeah, I'm kind of back on speaking terms with God. I was angry for a moment with God, and why me, and going through those different questions that we all ask ourselves. But when I had to make the decision about the hysterectomy, it was a trickle-down effect, and it was causing issues in other areas of my body that could have been fatal. So I had to ask myself, you can live without a uterus? Can you live if you go into liver failure? And it was like, I can live without a uterus, I cannot live without my liver. And so it was at that point where I said, okay, God, I'm still here. I didn't lose my life. So how can I take this and continue to live and continue to move forward with it? So I am definitely back to practicing, my spirituality, and with prayer and meditation. I've always believed in those things, but when you're hit hard sometimes with life, you kind of throw up the middle finger, and you're like, everybody, even God, so it kind of takes time as part of that grieving process to let those things go, so you can re-embrace that relationship and make yourself open again.
I do. I agree with you 100%. And I think there are quite a few of us that have been through that, whether it's endometriosis, lung cancer, diabetes, whatever the case may be. You always say, Lord, I'm such a good person, or I thought I was a good person, and what has happened now that you have forsaken me? And really, it's not forsaking you, it's just, I guess, a journey we all must take,
Yeah.
So now, what are you doing to help other women out here? You're quite the advocate.
Thank you.
Yes, you are. So what are some of your plans to continue to keep advocating towards endometriosis?
Well, the last time I was here, I talked about my expo that I did, the Fighting Fighting Fiercely Expo that I would normally do in March for Endometriosis Awareness Month. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to do that the last couple of years because of my health. So what I've done is taken more to social media and doing virtual education and virtual online workshops. So anybody that follows me on social media, I'm more active on YouTube now, where I make series of videos discussing different topics, either there or Facebook Live. I'm partnering with other bloggers, other endometriosis advocates, contributing to their blogs. So doing more visually as well as writing to try to expand the audience so we can get the message out to more people.
Nice, very nice. How can we find you, follow you, get your book and all that? And what would you like to say in closing for these people?
One of the things I wanted to say in closing is that this disease is very complex. It doesn't affect every woman the same. It affects every woman differently. And oftentimes when you have a disease that affects you on the inside and people can't see on the outside, they tend to kind of side-eye you a little bit or not take you as seriously. So if I could leave one word with people, if somebody that you know has this condition and they come to you with whatever it is that they need to vent or be heard about, don't try to offer an explanation. Sometimes don't try to offer a solution, because sometimes we're not looking for an answer. We just want to be heard. So I would just say, if somebody comes to you and talks to you, the best thing that you can do to support somebody is to let them know, I hear you and I believe you. I hear you and I believe you. That will be the most important thing that you can do to support somebody along this journey.
I agree. I really do. With this being health and wellness night, I think that's what we all need to hear. You know what I'm saying? That word of encouragement and that word of love and adoration, no matter what it is you're going through. Because when you do have something like this or any other almost cancer-like situation, people just don't take it serious.
They don't. Especially when you have an invisible illness,
right,
or a disease that isn't talked about, like, as widely as, say, a breast cancer or lupus or things like that. We kind of fly under the radar. So that those women, we really do need that support.
Okay, very good. All right, how can we get your book and all that good stuff?
You can get the book Fighting Fiercely. If you want a signed copy, you can go to the website www.fightingfiercely.com. It's also available in paperback and Kindle at Amazon as well. If you want to reach out to me for speaking engagements or to connect, you can email me at fightingfiercely@gmail. I am on Instagram and Twitter at FightFierceEndo, and I'm on Facebook. .com Fighting Fiercely.
Very good. Well, Michelle, I love you so very much.
Thank you.
Dear.
I love you too.
You're always a ray of sunshine, and at this age in my life, I'll be your puppy baby daddy.
Right.
Can we do that? Can I be your puppy baby
go half
daddy?
on the puppy.
We go half on the puppy. Yeah,
we can do that.
At this point in life, honey, I'll probably be horrible keeping that baby. I really would. So we just gonna, I'll get you a beautiful little puppy.
We can work with that.
And I'll be your puppy baby daddy.
There you go. I'll take it.
All right. Well, I love you so much.
Thank
Continued
you so
success.
much.
God bless you. And you look just radiant.
Thank
you. You really do. Despite everything that you've been through, just know that you are a beautiful young lady.
Thank you.
And everything will settle down in due time.
I believe it will.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We love you so very much. Big round of applause. Great job. I'm now going to be a puppy baby daddy. I know. Yay. Only Chat Daddy can be a puppy baby daddy. All right, so when we come back from break, Dr. G and Dr. C are here with us, and they're going to talk to us about more health and wellness. Health and wellness, that's all we're talking about tonight. Y'all want to talk about money? I don't care how much money you got. If your health ain't right, you're broke. You're broke. We'll be back in just a moment. Great job.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I got to get ready to go and wrap up, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you were educated, enlightened, empowered, and learned a thing or two, three, four. I love you guys. Keep fighting. Talk to you soon. Bye.